going to summarize the part that we have done so far? Yes. Who would summarize the part that we have done so far? Okay, Vishwajit.
So, ma'am, we need to summarize from from the
From the very
beginning
beginning.
or from the.
No, from the very beginning.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. So, there is a person, Sadao Huki, and it's a story about Sadao Huki and his wife Hannah. So basically, he was a very famous doctor, and he was living on a Japanese coast, and he was famous as he studied surgery and as he studied his surgery and medicine from USA. Basically, at that time, it was a time. The time was of World War, and he was not Asrau was not sent with the troops who went in the war, but he was kept in the country because the general of the military was undergoing an operation, and he was very much and he believed Sadao very much, so he thought that he is the only one who can make him well. So that is why he was kept in Japan only. And One day he was in his house with his wife and two children. Then it was a very foggy night, and he saw a person coming from this person coming from the coming on the coast from the sea. So he went out. So he and his wife Hannah went out and saw that the person was badly injured, and he was crawling and was not able to walk, and then he fell on the coast. So then they just thought that so then when he turned him over, he saw that he was a white man. So and he was wearing a cap on which on which it was which was stone, and on which it was very fadedly written that US Navy. So he got to know that he is a prisoner of war and has ran from there. That is why his lower back right part of lower right part of his back is having an injury that is a bullet in it. So so first of all he didn't so he was having a means he was not sure that whether he should take him in the house, or he should leave him, or he was thinking that he and his wife was thinking that they should throw him in the sea. But as he was at because if they did because if they took him to home, so as he was their enemy, and he also said that all Americans were their enemy. But then as he was a doctor, so he thought that he should take him in his house.
Okay,
And
hold
then
on,
they
hold
told
on. So they operated upon him, and Hannah had to give the anesthesia, even though she was not a professional, she was not trained in doing so, but she had to ultimately give, because there was no professional available. So she was the one who had to administer anesthesia to the prisoner of war. And then after the operation, what happened? Have we continued? Have we discussed this? I don't think so. I think we have to start from page number 36. When she came in the first time after the operation. This gathered his strength, and he was preparing himself for some fearful thing. Don't be afraid, she begged him softly. How come you speak English? He gasped. So he knew it very well that he was in Japan, and he failed to understand how the lady spoke English so well. I was a long time in America, she replied. She saw that he wanted to reply to that, but he could not. And so she knelt and she just fed him gently from the porcelain spoon. He ate unwillingly, but still he ate. He didn't feel like eating, but he had to, because he had to get the energy, and he wanted to recover soon. So that is why he ate, even though unwillingly. Now you will soon be strong, she said, not liking him and yet moved to comfort him. Can anyone just explain this line? Not liking him, yet moved to comfort him. Yes, Vishwajit. Three participants. Vishwajit.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, basically, she means that not liking him because he was the enemy and she didn't like Americans. But, ma'am, she had to do this. But she had to do this because he wanted to because they wanted that he should get energy.
They wanted that he should get energy, and she was moved. And looking at his miserable condition,
Yes, ma'am. Because he was very weak,
yes.
and also, like we have understood earlier, that he didn't eat anything from the past.
He had not eaten anything from the past few days. Now you will soon be strong, she said, not liking him, and yet move to comfort him. He did not answer. Then Sadao came in the third day after the operation. He found the young man sitting up, his face bloodless with the effort. What effort are we talking about here? The effort of just trying to sit up. Okay. So with that effort, he didn't have that much of an energy to just sit properly. And after he had made those efforts, his face had turned totally bloodless. Okay, got it? Who has made this line? Who is this child? Students are just, shameless students in the class. Okay. So lie down, Sadao cried. Do you want to die? Sadao just ordered him to lie down, and he said that if you will just keep on doing such efforts, then you would ultimately kill yourself. Okay. He forced the man down gently and strongly and examined the wound. You may kill yourself if you do this sort of thing, he scolded. So he was angry at his patient. So at that point of time, he was not thinking the white American as his enemy, but he was treating him just like his patient. What are you going to do with me? The boy muttered. He mumbled something. He didn't have the energy to speak loudly, so he just mumbled and he said, what are you going to do with me? He looked just now barely 17. Are you going to hand me over? So he was afraid and he felt that Sadao would hand him over to the police. So he just wanted to reassure himself that they won't do such a thing. So he just asked him, are you going to hand me over to the police? Let's move on to the next page. The pages are all jumbled up. They never come in sequence. Yes. So for a moment, Sadao did not answer. He finished his examination and then just pulled the silk quilt. So for a moment, Sadao did not answer. He finished his examination and then pulled the silk quilt over the man. I do not know myself what I shall do with you, he said. So he was still in a sort of a confusion and sort of a dilemma. What he's supposed to do with this injured soldier? I ought, of course, to give you to the police. I ought means he should be doing this as a patriot, as a Japanese, as a true Japanese. He should be handing him over to the police. You are a prisoner of war. No, do not tell me anything. Do not tell me anything means do not try to tell anything else to me. We all know that you are a prisoner of war. He put up his hand as he saw the young man was about to speak. Do not even tell me your name unless I ask it. He says, don't even try to speak because you don't have the energy to speak. And if you will do such a thing, then you might harm yourself. So if you're not asked to utter a word, you should not utter it. Okay. They looked at each other for a moment, and then the young man closed his eyes and turned his face to the wall. Okay, he whispered, his mouth a bitter line. Outside the door, Hannah was waiting for Sadao. He saw at once that she was in trouble. Now, what was the trouble that was brewing inside the household? We're just going to read about that. Sadao, Yumi tells me the servants feel they cannot stay if we hide this man here anymore. The servants were from the very beginning retaliating. They did not want that they should give shelter or they should take care of this American enemy. So now they have refused to stay in the house, and they say that if they would continue sheltering this man, then the servants would leave. She tells me that they are saying that you and I were so long in America that we have forgotten to think of our own country first. They think we like Americans. Now, this is the viewpoint of the servants. What have they started feeling? They have started feeling that because these two people, they had studied in America, so they have a kind of a soft corner, a kind of an affinity for the Americans. And that is why, they have forgotten all about their own country. They have forgotten that they are Japanese, and right now Japan, the Second World War is going on, and Japan and Americans are totally, Japanese and Americans are totally enemies. It is not true, Sadao said harshly. Americans are our enemies, but I have been trained not to let a man die if I can help it. So he says, why are the servants not able to understand this particular point, that I am a doctor and I have received this training that I have to save lives till it is in my hands. Okay, the servants cannot understand that, she said anxiously. So they are illiterate people and they are not going to understand this kind of a thing, and they won't, and they are not ready to understand this. So this is what Hannah replied. Okay, let's continue from here. More here to read. The servants cannot understand that, she said anxiously. No, he agreed. Neither seemed able to say more, and somehow the household dragged on. The servants were still there, but they had started growing more watchful. Their courtesy was as careful as ever, but their eyes were cold upon the pair to whom they were hired. Their eyes were cold. What does it mean? Their eyes, now they had, that emotion was missing. Their eyes were feelingless, they were cold, they were emotionless upon the two of them. The pair here refers to Hannah and Sadao. It is clear what our master ought to do, the old gardener said one morning. He had worked with flowers all his life and had been a specialist too in moss. For Sadao's father, so he had been there for the last so many years, even when Sadao's father was there. So for Sadao's father, he had made one of the finest moss gardens in Japan, sweeping the bright green carpet constantly so that not a leaf or a pine needle marred here means destroyed the velvet of its surface. My old master's son knows very well. So the gardener had been hired by Sadao's father. So that is why he says my old master's son. So son here refers to Sadao. He knows very well what he ought to do. So everybody at this point of time knows what he or she should do, because this is the time of war. War is going on, and even Sadao also knows what should be done. He now said, pinching a bud from a bush as he spoke. When the man was so near death, why did he not let him bleed? He was already in a state of, he was almost dying when they found him near the seashore. So they should have let him there only, or they should have just turned him over into the sea. And why did they just bring him into the house? The young master is so proud of his skill. If you have your books with you, you can underline this. The young master was so proud of his skill to save life that he saves any life. The cook said contemptuously. What do you mean by contemptuously? What is contemptuously? What is this word, contemptuously? Just raise your hands. Yes. Yes, Alan. What is contemptuously?
Yes, ma'am. It means like he said that sentence in a very scornful way, like that is full of disdain.
Yes, full of disdain, scornful, full of hatred. So he said it very contemptuously, full of disdain, scornfully, or with a lot of hatred, with a lot of repulsion in his eyes and in his tone. She split a fowl's neck skillfully and held the fluttering bird and let its blood flow into the roots of a wistaria vine. Blood is the best of fertilizers, and the old gardener would not let her waste even a drop of it. So can anyone just explain this last paragraph? What does the author try to say in these lines, in this last paragraph? Yes, Malvika. Yes, Malvika, just a minute. Yes, speak up.
Ma'am, in these lines, while the cook is saying these lines, she is also cutting a neck of a hen, and while she is cutting the neck, the blood which is coming from the neck, she puts it on in the roots of the vine, as the blood is very good fertilizer according to the old gardener. So
yes.
he do not want to
waste it. He does not want to waste even a drop of it. Okay, so we've done till this much. It is the children of whom we must think. Let's move on to the next page. It is the children of whom we must think, Yumi said sadly. what will be their fate if their father is condemned as a traitor? So the nanny, Yumi is the nanny, and she's the caretaker of the children, and she's concerned about the children, and she's concerned about their future. So she says, what will be their fate? What is going to be their future if their father is condemned as a traitor? If they think that if he's caught by the police, eventually he would be, if he continues giving shelter to this traitor, he would be caught one day, and if he's put into jail, then what is going to be the future of these little children? They did not try to hide what they said from the ears of Hannah as she stood arranging the day's flowers in the veranda nearby, and she knew that they spoke on purpose that she might hear. So they were not, it was not that they wanted to hide whatever they were discussing, whatever conversation they were having amongst each other. They did not want to hide it from their mistress or from their master, and in fact they wanted her to hear. So that is why the author says she knew that they spoke on purpose that she might hear. So they spoke so loudly that Hannah should be able to hear. That they were right, she knew too, in most of her being. But there was another part of her which she herself could not understand. Which part? It was not sentimental liking of the prisoner. She had come to think of him as a prisoner only. She had not liked him yesterday, even yesterday, then he had said in his impulsive way, "Anyway, let me tell you that my name is Tom." She had only bowed her little distant bow. She sat hurt. She saw hurt in his eyes, but she did not wish to assuage it. What do you mean by assuage? What is assuage? Why is it always that we have the same students, Malvika Alam or Vishwajit, raising their hands? Somebody else should answer. What do you mean by assuage? She saw hurt. You can judge the meaning from the context itself. You don't need a dictionary every time. It is very clear. From the context, you can tell me the meaning. Yes, Lubhavni. What is assuage? Lubhavni?
Ma'am, assuage means bend in a respectful manner.
Bend in a respectful manner. Anybody else? Assuage. Here, what would it mean? Yes, Alam.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, it means like she did not want to lessen it, like make
Yes.
it less intense for him.
Yes, she knew it very well that he was, feeling hurt, and that was very much visible in his eyes. But she did not wish to lessen that, feeling of his in any manner. She did not want to. It means that she didn't feel like comforting him. Indeed, he was a great trouble in this house. How was he a great trouble? He was a trouble for her. He was a trouble for her children. He was a trouble for Sadao's reputation. He could be put into jail because of this enemy only. As for Sadao, every day he examined the wound carefully. The last stitches had been pulled out this morning, and the young man would, in a fortnight, be nearly as well as ever. Sadao went back to his office and carefully typed a letter to the chief of police reporting the whole matter. Now that he was getting better, the enemy was getting better, so he felt that he should inform the police about this, and he wrote a letter and he said, on the 21st day of February, an escaped prisoner. Alam, please mute yourself because I can hear some sounds. Please mute yourself. Alam, mute yourself, please. On the 21st day of February, an escaped prisoner was washed up on the shore in front of my house. So this is what he wrote in the letter. So far he typed, and then he opened so he typed only till this much. He just wrote, on this and this day, 21st February को क्या क्या हुआ, एक escape prisoner of war आया, and he was just carried into home. And no, he didn't even write they carried him home. He just wrote that he was washed up on the shore in front. He just landed in front of our house. This is what he wrote. And after this, what did he do? He opened a secret drawer of his desk and he put the unfinished report into it. He just kept that report. He wrote only 3 lines and he let it remain unfinished, and he kept it inside the drawer. So let's continue after this. She made a breakfast. Just a minute. Let me find out the next page. A secret drawer. We have to find from a secret drawer. This is not the page. Secret. So he opened a secret drawer of his desk and put the unfinished report into it. On the 7th day after that, two things happened. So you can underline, if you have your books in front of you, you can underline what were the two things that happened after 7 days. In the morning, the servants left together, their belongings tied in large square cotton handkerchiefs. When Hannah got up in the morning, nothing was done. The house was not cleaned and the food not prepared, and she knew what it meant. She knew that this meant that the servants were leaving. She was dismayed and she was even terrified. She was disheartened and she felt afraid also, but her pride as a mistress would not allow her to show it. She didn't let the servants feel what her feelings were. Instead, she just inclined her head gracefully when they appeared before her in the kitchen, and she paid them off, and she just thanked them for all that they had done for her. They were crying, but she did not cry. They were becoming they had become so emotional because they had been in their house in their home for so many years. So they they became sentimental and they started crying, but she showed no emotions. The cook and the gardener had served Sadao since he was a little boy in his father's house. And Yumi cried. Why? Because of the children. She was so grieving that after she had gone, she ran back to Hannah. Even after leaving, they were about to leave the house, she again came back and she just told Hannah, if the baby misses me too much tonight, send for me. Because she was the one who was taking care of the baby. She was the one who was making the child sleep. So that is why she said that if the child misses me too much tonight, just send for me. I am going to my own house and you know where it is. Thank you, Hannah said. Thank you, Hannah said, smiling. But she told herself she would not send for Yumi, however the baby cried. She was firm, she was determined, she resolutely said to herself that she is not going to call back Yumi, whatever may be the reason, even if the baby. So she says she made the breakfast and Sadao helped with the children. Neither of them spoke of the servants beyond the fact that they were gone. So they didn't discuss about the servants and the fact that they had gone from their house. But after Hannah had taken morning food to the prisoner, she came back to Sadao. Why is it we cannot see clearly what we ought to do? She asked him. Even the servants see more clearly than we do. Why are we not able to hand over the prisoner of war to the police? Even the servants know it very well that this ought to be done. Why are we different from other Japanese? Why is it that we are not behaving as any other Japanese would do during this harsh time, the time of war? Sadao did not answer, but a little later, he went into the room where the prisoner was and he said brusquely, what is brusquely? Can anyone tell me what is brusquely? Yes, Khushpreet. Khushpreet, what is brusquely?
Ma'am, he said very bluntly, in a blunt
manner. He said bluntly, today you may get up on your feet. I want you to stay up only 5 minutes at a time. Tomorrow you may try it twice as long. So he says you need to get up now. You are well now and you need to be back on your feet. As far as today is concerned, just stay up for 5 minutes and tomorrow you can stay up for 10 minutes. It would be well that you get back your strength as quickly as possible. He saw the flicker of terror on the young face that was still very pale. He saw terror on his face. Why did he see terror? Because the young man, the prisoner of war, was terrified that if he would be well and if he would be back on his feet, then this doctor might hand him over to the police. So, okay, the boy murmured. Evidently, he was determined to say more. I feel I ought to thank you, doctor, for having saved my life. Don't thank me too early. Sadao said coldly. He says, don't thank me too early. It's not the time to thank me because you don't even know what I'm going to do with you next. So this is what he means to say. Don't thank me too early. He saw the flicker of terror again in the boy's eyes. Terror as unmistakable as an animal's. The scars on his neck were crimson for a moment. Even he was so terrified, he was so frightened that the scars that were there on his neck, they turned red, bright red for a moment. Those scars, what were they? Sadao did not ask. In the afternoon, the second thing happened. I told you after 7 days, two things happened. What was the first thing? Hurry up. Raise your hands. What was the first thing that happened? Why again Alam, Khushpreet and Malvika? Somebody else should answer. And Lubhavni. Somebody else who has not answered earlier today. what was the first thing that had happened that we're talking about here? See, we have so many participants, but still only 5 participants have raised their hands. Yes, Gulistan. Gulistan, tell.
In the morning, all the servants left the home together.
Yes, in the morning the servants had left the homes together. So the second thing happened in the afternoon, and this thing was Hannah working hard on unaccustomed labor. Why was it unaccustomed? Because she was not used to doing so much of hard work, because they had the servants from the very beginning. So she was unaccustomed. She was unused to. She was not used to this much of work, doing the work herself. What did she see? She saw a messenger come to the door in official uniform. Her hands went weak. The moment she saw the messenger, she felt the police had come to arrest Sadao. Her hands went weak and she could not draw her breath. The servants must have told already. She was just wondering that the servants had already told Sumiti and Pavneet. They're entering now. So the servants must have told already. She ran to Sadao, gasping, unable to utter a word. But by then, the messenger had simply followed her through the garden, and there he stood. She pointed at him helplessly. She wanted to reach to Sadao earlier. She wanted to tell him about the person who had come in, the messenger, but she couldn't go earlier because the messenger had followed her and he was there standing beside her. So she just pointed at him helplessly. Sadao looked up from his book. He was in his office, the other partition of which was thrown open to the garden for the southern sunshine. Why do I have people in the waiting room now at this point of time when the meeting is about to end? Sumiti, roll number 33 is entering now. What is it? Sadao looked up from his book. He was in his office. And he just said, what is it? The messenger, and then he asked the messenger, and then he rose, seeing the man's uniform. He also got a little bit afraid, because the moment he saw the man in uniform, he felt that something wrong has happened. Maybe he has come to arrest me. Okay, you are to come to the palace, the man said. The old general is in pain again. Now, this was the reason why Sadao had not been sent along with the troops. The reason was the general might need Sadao at any point of time. And the general trusted nobody apart from Sadao. And he was in pain again, and he wanted Sadao to come to the palace. Oh, Hannah breathed. Is that all? She felt relieved. But the messenger could not understand that. He said, all? The messenger exclaimed, is it not enough? Indeed, it is. She replied, I am very sorry. So she just tried to cover herself by saying, no, I'm very sorry, and it is more than enough. The general is in pain, and Sadao would be going accompanying you. Then Sadao came to say goodbye. She was in the kitchen but doing nothing. The children were asleep, and she sat merely resting for a moment, more exhausted from her fright than from the work. Even though she was not used to this kind of a hard work that she was doing at home, but right now she was tired, she was exhausted, more because of her fright. She got so much afraid, so much frightened seeing that messenger, that she was terrified even then. I thought they had come to arrest you, she said. He gazed down into her anxious eyes. I must get rid of this man for your sake, he said in distress. So she did not like that his wife was going through so much of anxiety. Why was the need for her to be so anxious? And he said that I have to get rid of this man, at least for your sake. Somehow I must get rid of him. Sadao goes to see the general. Of course, the general said weakly, I understand fully, but that is because I once took a degree in Princeton, so few Japanese have. So what do these lines convey to you? These lines tell us that Sadao has disclosed the matter to the general. He has told him everything, that how the person was washed ashore in front of their house, how he carried him home, how he operated upon him, and now so many days have passed, the servants have left. So everything has been disclosed, everything has been told to the general. So Sadao said, I care nothing for the man, Excellency, Sadao said, but having operated on him with such success, yes, the general said, it only makes me feel you more indispensable to me. You are such a skillful doctor that you can save, I feel you can save anybody's life. And evidently you can save anyone. You are so skilled. You say you think I can stand one more such attack as I have had today? So he's not concerned about, the American prisoner of war right now, even though he has heard about each and every account, the details of how they have sheltered him. Still, he is not concerned about him, and he is only concerned about his health, because he's just had a major attack, and he wants to confirm from Sadao. He wants to reassure himself that he would be able to stand one more attack. If he gets one more heart attack, he would be able to bear it. Not more than one, Sadao said. So Sadao tells him that if you are to have another attack, that would be the last one. After that, your body is not strong enough to bear. Then certainly I can allow nothing to happen to you. If this is my condition of health, I cannot let you be in, I cannot hand you over to the police, and I cannot let you be in jail, the general said with anxiety. His long pale Japanese face became expressionless, which meant that he was in deep thought. You cannot be arrested. This is what he said, that I cannot let you be arrested. So just underline it from here, mark it here. So we'll continue from here a day after.